breaking news from KXAN News.
That breaking news, a large fire overnight at Icon apartment complex in South Austin. It injured 4 people. This is on South 1st Street and St. Elmo. That's just south of Ben White Boulevard.
And you see just how hot this was getting. This is the Austin Fire Department. The video they provided to us, we know more than 30 residents are now without a home, at least 10 units damaged. That fire starting just before 2. Austin firefighters now say they have it under control. The department says this fire damaged 4 units, water and smoke damaging 12 other units. Austin Travis County EMS paramedics taking 3 people to the hospital. They had minor smoke inhalation. Another person ended up driving him or herself to the hospital.
Good morning and thanks for waking up with us. I'm Erica Brennis.
And I'm Tom Miller. While you may be getting your New Year's resolutions ready, some people getting ready to celebrate tonight as well. It's the last day of the year. But driving while intoxicated, those crashes end up spiking during the holidays. New Year's Eve, no exception.
APD is preparing. They're going out in full force this week to keep the streets safe. KXAN's Brianna Hollis updates us on New Year and year-round efforts to prevent drunk driving.
Love serving others, died serving others, and protecting others.
Jeffrey Richardson, a Poteet police officer, dead at age 35, killed by a drunk driver near the Domain as he directed traffic at a construction site off Mopac. His father, Alan, says he left behind a wife and 5 children.
He had a full life ahead of him.
The driver, Lindsay Smith, 26 years old at the time of the crash, is just months into her 18-year prison sentence for striking Richardson.
There's just too many resources available to pick up keys.
In October, the Austin Police Department made its once seasonal no refusal initiative a full-time program. This means if police pull you over, suspect you're driving drunk, ask you to take a breath or blood test, and you refuse, APD will issue a warrant right away to require you to take the test once you get to jail.
By obtaining a search warrant and getting blood evidence on DWI investigation, it just confirms what the officers on scene saw, the performance on the standardized field sobriety test, and adds more evidence to the case.
Detective Christopher Morrison says over the past 3 months, APD has made about 250 DWI arrests per month. Out of those, he says about 100 people each month refuse the breath or blood tests. Alan, happy to see any efforts to curb drunk driving, speaking out about his unimaginable loss.
No idea what devastation you leave behind.
To let people know just how real the consequences are.
If it saves one life, then it's absolutely worth every second that I can spend doing this.
Brianna Hollis, KXAN News.
Prior to the expansion of no refusal, APD operated the initiative on weekends, during holidays, during big events like Austin City Limits and South by Southwest. To make the year-round program work, the department received grant funding to staff DWI specialists at the jail. They're now always on hand to execute the no refusal warrants.
Going in depth, here's some information on punishments for DWI. These are in cases that do not result in the death of another person. According to TxDOT, first-time offenders can get a fine of up to $2,000 and up to 180 days in jail. You can also lose your driver's license for up to a year. And this does not include any attorney's fees.
First warning weather with meteorologist Kristen Curry.
Hey, good to be back with you this morning. Let's start with a live look outside, taking you up to Round Rock. This is our Whittlesey Landscape Supplies weather camera. Nice and quiet, a little bit of wind. We are going to be tracking some gusty winds more so this afternoon, but temperatures kind of slow to respond to this front. Right now, we are still in the 50s and 60s. The temperature trend largely on the warmer side for now, but today is going to be a much cooler day. We are not going to be looking at those record-setting temperatures of the upper 80s we had yesterday. Today, we get stuck in the 60s. We'll probably dip down to those 50s later this morning, but only reaching a high of 67. That's closer to normal. We should be a little cooler than that for this time of year, but you know what? At least it gets us back down to a more seasonable-like feel. And we're going to talk temperatures like that for the rest of the week. There is some low rain chances in the extended forecast that we'll also discuss, plus a strong cold front on the way next week and the all-important New Year's Eve forecast. Those details coming up in your first morning forecast.
Thank you, Kristen. In Austin, Cat Metro is doing its part to make sure that you celebrate safely this New Year's Eve. It's running rail service later than normal, also giving free rides on trains and buses after 5 this evening for that party at Auditorium Shores. The last train will leave the downtown station around 2:30 Wednesday morning. Keep in mind, Cat Metro will operate a scaled-back service on Wednesday.
Flying into 2025 with a heads up from Austin's airport. Not only are the ongoing expansions at the West Gate and the West Infill continuing into the new year, a spokesperson tells us that some new construction is also on the way.
In 2025, we'll be breaking ground on some new projects. So there's going to be even more construction that will be visible to passengers inside the terminal and even outside. And that's because we're breaking ground next year on a brand new parking garage. This will replace the red garage, which is set to be removed to make way for an even bigger terminal expansion.
Airport officials are still advising travelers to arrive at least 2.5 hours before a domestic flight and 3 hours early for an international flight.
A federal appeals court is upholding E. Jean Carroll's $5 million civil judgment against President-elect Donald Trump. Trump appealed that 2023 verdict. It found him liable for sexual assault and defamation. He argued the judge should not have allowed jurors to see certain witness testimony and evidence. That includes the so-called Access Hollywood tape. The appeals court ruling found that Trump failed to show the judge made any errors that would warrant a new trial. Spokesperson for Trump says he plans to appeal that ruling in the case and called it a, quote, Democratic-funded Carroll hoax.
President Biden announced $2.5 billion in additional security assistance for Ukraine yesterday. This comes as the White House pushes to get Ukraine as much aid as possible before President Biden leaves office next month. This latest round includes a $1.25 billion package for the Ukrainian military and a $1.2 billion security package. The U.S. has provided more than $60 billion in aid to Ukraine since Russia invaded the country nearly 3 years ago.
Welcome back. This is a live look outside from our Austonian camera. And tonight, if you have the same view, you're going to see fireworks right after midnight. Big event going on later. We'll tell you more about that in a bit. First, though, let's go to North Texas. And the search for an 8-year-old girl swept away in a North Texas creek is entering its 7th day. On Monday, that search for Clara Robinson continued in Sherman. It's after her family's car hydroplaned off Highway 75 and into Post Oak Creek on Christmas Eve. Police say that search will continue until she's found. Multiple local, regional, and now even state first responders are involved in that search in the water, on the ground, and also in the air. Good morning. This is a live look outside from the Circuit of the Americas camera. That big tower out there in eastern Travis County lit up here this morning. Get your news, and some decision makers in Kyle are stuck between a rock and a hard place, or you could say a tree in a hard place.
Yeah, that's because they want to make old Stagecoach roads safer by widening it, but in order to do that, they have to remove a tree that has stood there for centuries. The city secured funding in 2022 for that expansion, but then called it off as plans were in works to figure out what to do about the tree. They've lovingly called it and named it Jolene. Earlier this month, the city determined Jolene could be a good candidate to be preserved and moved, but at their meeting on December 3rd, council members voted 4-2 to move forward with removing the tree and plans to install art pieces and plant new trees to honor it.
I can understand why people would be upset, but at the same time, it's quite costly and it's not guaranteed that the tree would survive.
It would have cost the city almost $750,000 to move that tree.
Adding some depth on this, last year the Austin Parks and Rec Department moved a Barton Springs tree known as Flo. Except the city said it was unwell. One of the city's certified arborists first spotted Flo's brittle cedar fungus. Because of the tree's significance, though, Austin contracted 4 different companies to confirm, and they did confirm, that Flo was sick.
As you are getting your New Year's Eve celebration going, be sure to tune in to NBC tonight because Hoda Kotb and Jenna Bush Hager have the ultimate kickoff, a toast to 2024. Here's Hoda and Jenna with a preview.
Join us tonight as we bring in the new year and bid goodbye to 2024. We're going to have it all, guys, including the year's hottest pop culture moments, the wildest hookups, the funniest bloopers, and the many insane things we tried thanks to social media.
Joining us is an all-star lineup, including Snoop Dogg and Martha Stewart, Jeff Goldblum, Reba McEntire, Kristen Chenoweth, Michael Bublé, Amber Ruffin, and Adam Lambert. It's a celebration you do not want to miss.
That's all right here
on NBC.
Yeah, tune in tonight. A Toast to 2024, C'est la vie, airs tonight at 9 here on KXAN. That looks fun.
That looks like a lot of fun.
I feel like everyone's sort of looking for something to do. If you don't want to go to the fireworks, maybe you're more of a homebody.
Yeah.
Good options.
Yeah. Watch the East Coast ball drop.
That's
Get
right.
to bed an hour early. Right?
Exactly.
Let me show you what's going on with that forecast, because maybe you are going to be one of those revelers out tonight. Bundle up, but don't worry about the rain. We do not have to have any sort of raincoat, umbrella, rain boots, none of that in the forecast today. Today is going to be a much cooler day, though. That's kind of the big headline here. Dry skies across the state. Live look outside from our Whittlesey Landscape Supplies weather camera there in southeast Austin. A little bit of movement, still a little bit of wind out there behind this front, and the cooler air will catch up eventually. Still looking at temperatures in those upper 50s to low 60s this morning, but we aren't going to see much of a recovery through the day. Your highs are going to stay in the 60s, much different than that high of 89 we had yesterday, very close to the all-time December record high. 67 is where I expect us to be today, with still some gusty winds out of the northeast, up to about 20 to 25 miles per hour at times. That's going to come in later this afternoon. Highs across the board. Like I mentioned, headline is it is going to be a much different day with those temperatures running about 15 to 20 degrees cooler than yesterday. But here is your New Year's forecast for tonight. Around midnight, we expect those temperatures to be in the upper 40s. And then for tomorrow, a little cooler than today. This is actually where we should be for the start of January, low 60s tomorrow afternoon. Now, we don't have a whole lot of moisture recovery here. Winds are going to kind of go back and forth. We get a little bit more of a southerly wind heading into this weekend. But as far as the rain chances go, they're very minimal, it looks like, moving forward. So let me take you day by day starting on Thursday. So kind of jumping ahead a little forward into the back end of the work week here. Couple spot showers in our eastern counties, maybe. There's a little disturbance that I think could bring us a few spots of light rain east of I-35, but it's only a 10% chance of rain. I'm not confident. It's not something that's going to ruin your day. Friday looks dry. Then we get into the weekend. Saturday, a little bit more cloud cover with the potential for some spot showers, it looks like. More so as we get into Sunday. There's a large storm system, it looks like, going north of us. Cold front's going to come in as we get into the later part of the weekend, more so next week. There's a lot of discussion online about this. I'm sure you've seen it. We are way too early to be talking about details, specifics, intensity, duration. Does it look like we're getting colder next week? Yes. There's confidence in a pattern change. Just how severe is that pattern change? There's still a lot that we need to watch for. So we do anticipate colder air coming in by mid to late next week. But whether or not there's going to be any wintry precipitation with it, we don't know yet. Just looks like our temperatures will come down in our next 7 days. So 7-day forecast this week shows largely 60s, if not even some 70s, heading into the weekend ahead of this cold front. Like mentioned, a couple spots of low rain chances Thursday, Sunday, but largely a dry start to 2025. Now, brings us to 2024. What a wild year of weather that was, from winter storms, flash flooding in the hill country, heat, and even drought. Not to leave out a total solar eclipse we had in the spring. KXAN's Christopher Adams has looked back at the top weather stories of the year. This is the powerhouse. This is the one that we're going to be watching for.
The year started with an Arctic blast.
The wind chill advisory for wind chills as low as 5 below.
If you can stay indoors, please do that.
It brought snow and ice across Central Texas, and with it, bitter cold.
Asterisk means record. We're likely to be the coldest January 15th we've ever seen.
A high of 24 and a low of 16 degrees.
Today, we had record morning lows. We had record cold afternoon highs.
The month ended up being the coldest January in Austin in 17 years. The snow and ice soon gave way to rain. January 22nd was the wettest day of the year, with more than 3 inches recorded at Camp Mabry.
We're wrapping up Austin's heaviest one-day rainfall total since August 2022.
And as you can see and hear, the rain definitely left an impact on this creek.
And the rainy pattern continued.
Over the last 24 hours alone, Muldoon has picked up over half a foot.
It was pretty intense, flooding everywhere.
A boost to area lakes and even Jacob's Well.
This is a temporary relief from 222 days with no flows.
Then came the most important forecast of the year.
Breaks in the clouds will be likely through the afternoon.
Cautiously optimistic is the phrase of the day here in Fredericksburg.
The area being in the path of totality of a total solar eclipse for the first time since the year 1397.
The April 8th total solar eclipse, a celestial treat for many, as the clouds parted at just the right moment.
It opened up during totality.
Right.
We saw the diamond ring going in and going out.
Oh my goodness.
It was fantastic.
Then came severe weather season.
Anywhere from baseball-sized hail to softball-sized hail.
This is a tennis ball in my left hand. Look how big this piece of hail was.
It was the most intense hailstorm I've ever seen.
An EF1 tornado touched down in Maine on April 28th, spinning on the ground for almost 5 miles. And then on May 9th,
we watched it coming and we felt it happen. I mean, all the trees started swooshing and we saw the hail, we saw it all firsthand.
A microburst in the middle of San Marcos.
A lot of it is going to be this.
The same storm dumped hail bigger than 6 inches in Johnson City before rolling into Wimberley.
Hail put this gaping hole in Lisa Walling's car, and she says she was actually driving when the storm hit.
Intimidating, frightening, and out of control.
As hurricane season got underway,
we actually have Fayette County in a tropical storm warning.
A near miss from Hurricane Beryl, whose path shifted further to the east.
Look at that. Not even close. Very little rain, even in our eastern counties.
The hurricane instead made landfall south of Houston.
80, 90 mile per hour wind gusts. The biggest threat here, just south of us in Surfside, is of course the storm surge.
I've been through hurricanes before. I never felt this house shake like that.
Back at home,
The big breaking news this morning is the fact that we've got a whole lot of floodwater coming down the Llano and into the Highland Lakes.
Flash flooding on the Llano River on July 24th as the water rose 15 feet overnight after heavy rain.
Y'all, look at this site. We have waited months for this kind of rainfall.
Not since the 1950 drought of record has Lake Travis been as low as it is now. This is going to help refill it just a little bit.
July's rain helped keep temperatures down, and the month ended up cooler than June for only the 10th time since record-keeping began in the 1890s. But of course, our luck ran out.
105 for Monday, Tuesday 106, Wednesday 105.
107 tomorrow, likely to tie the record. That one close to 100 years old.
109, easily the hottest day of the year.
That came on August 21st, and as things heated up,
intense video. Take a look at your screen. This is a wildfire burning right now in the hill country.
The North Art Complex fire burned more than 4,300 acres in Mason County.
Fuel conditions have really increased over the last several months, and now that we're in a drying trend, we've just been poised waiting for an ignition source.
The source, lightning from storms moving through.
We've got a brand new flash flood warning.
More flooding in the hill country came on September 3rd.
There's the jackpot spot at the Llano River in Llano now with 6 1/3 inches of rain.
They partially opened Wirtz and Starkey dams at about midnight.
Today's levels of Lake Travis are the highest they have been since October of 2022.
The heat had another surprise in store for us on October 13th.
The latest ever recorded triple-digit day in Austin.
This fall ended up as Austin's hottest on record and also the 8th driest. Things didn't always work out as planned this year, but the First Warning weather team was there with you throughout, with a new captain steering the ship.
KXAN Chief, emphasis on the chief, meteorologist Nick Bannon.
It's just an honor. I love this station. I love this area.
In Austin, Christopher Adams, KXAN News.
Quite the look back in 2025, right around the corner. Coming up, the best way to welcome the year without spending any money if you live locally. If you're listening on the KXAN Today podcast, we have that for you. Thanks for joining us. Hope you'll join us on air for that, but you can always find our stories on our website and our podcast.